All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to week 18 of the NFL season. So, in my video a couple days ago, I made some impromptu picks on the ESPN website when we talked about playoff scenarios. To be honest with you, I don't remember what I picked exactly. I'll probably go through here. I'm making my official picks today. And then what we'll do is I'll make my official picks and I'll put them into the playoff machine and we'll see where that comes out. We'll see if it's the same as what I did the other day in my first gut reaction. Some more information's come out with some on some players and who's playing and who's not, so that might alter who I'm picking in a couple of games. So let's go ahead and get to it here. Let's switch over here to my trusty Excel spreadsheet. First game is tomorrow, so it is Friday, so there was no Thursday game, so I got to actually have a chance to actually think about my picks instead of doing them on Tuesday or Wednesday. so it is Friday, and tomorrow's games start at 3:30 p.m. Central Time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So the first game we have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have locked up the number one seed in the AFC. They are going to be resting quite a few of their players, including their quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Looks like Tyler Huntley is going to get the start. The Ravens have zero incentive to play this game or to win this game. Well, you always want to win a game, I guess, but their key players are all going to rest this week, and they'll have the double rest of the bye week as well. Sometimes that's a detriment to some teams, but we'll see what happens to the Ravens in this situation. The Pittsburgh Steelers, on the other hand, they need to win, and they need a little help to get in. I don't think they get in with just a straight win. As you can see here, the line opened at 3 points favorite for the Steelers on the road, and it still is 3 points today. That line takes into effect who is playing and who is not. So because of that, I am actually going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers to get this win over the Baltimore Ravens. This is a game that the Buffalo Bills are going to be watching very, very intently. And we'll get to the Bills in a little bit here as we talk about their scenarios. We talked about them the other night too. Now for the 3 points, so against the spread, I'm actually going to go with the Ravens to cover. I think Pittsburgh wins by a field goal. There was one site, Fat Jack's picks yesterday that he did with Seren Petro. They had this at 4 points, and I think at 4 points. Wait a second. Yeah, they had this one or was there a different game at 4? There was another one that was at 4 or 4.5. Okay, no, it was this one. I can't remember why that would. If it was at 2.5, I would definitely take the Steelers to cover that 3. But at 3 points, I'm taking Baltimore. I think the Steelers will win by a field goal, which means that I need to take the Ravens in the points against the spread. Okay, Houston taking on the Colts. So Houston is a 1.5 point favorite. So CJ Stroud, that's the CJ Stroud bump going there. The Colts are not getting much respect here at home. This is pretty much a pick'em game. The money line is negative 120 for the Texans, and just it's 100 for the Colts. So that's almost as straight up as you can get, other than just being a pure 50-50 proposition. Of course, 51.6 to 48% on the FPI index. This game is as close as it's going to get. Both teams are almost identical against the spread. It almost matches their record. So really, it comes down to who has the better players. I think C.J. Stroud is a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew. C.J. Stroud has been out recently. He did come back last week and played pretty well in leading them to a win, getting them back in the playoff hunt. The winner of this game goes to the playoffs. And it is possible the winner of this game wins the division. It depends on what happens in the Jacksonville game. This game is the winner gets in, and I believe the loser... I believe what we talked about the other night. I don't think the loser can get in. Because Jacksonville, if they lose as well, they would have to. Jacksonville would have to lose in order to be tied with them, and Jacksonville owns both tiebreakers against the Colts and the Texans, and nobody else can finish 9-8 that's still eligible for the playoffs. The Bengals could, but they've already been eliminated because of tiebreakers. So that's right. So the loser of this game does not get in. The winner will get in. At the very least, they'll get a wild card. They possibly could get the 4 seed. Depends on what happens to Jacksonville. So all of this being said, Houston is the favorite here, but I'm going to go with the home team, the Indianapolis Colts, to get the win here. Obviously, I'm picking them to win outright. I think the Colts. I just think the Colts are just a little better team. They're a little more ready. They just have a few more veteran players on their team than the Texans do. It doesn't take away any of the story this year of the Houston Texans. I had a comment on my previous video about someone said, don't be sleeping on the Texans, and none of these comments here are showing any disrespect to the Houston Texans. They've had a marvelous season. Really, I do think they overperformed, but I think they're in line to really take control of that division, especially if Lawrence, good grief, I almost forgot his name. Especially if Lawrence isn't quite ready to maybe be the superstar quarterback that some of us thought he was going to be. Okay, so Sunday, noon o'clock games. We have the Browns taking on the Bengals here. The Browns are locked into the 5 seed. They're going to be resting some players as well. Joe Flacco, I do think Joe Flacco is playing way over his skis. I think at some point it all comes crashing back down for him. And unfortunately for the Browns, I think it's going to be in the playoffs. I don't think Flacco is going to play this week. Now, the Bengals were eliminated last week by the Chiefs. We talked about that. The Bengals here are 7-point favorites because the Browns just are not going to be playing a whole bunch of guys. I think this is Jake Browning's audition to get a starting quarterback job for next year. So because of that, I'm gonna pick the Bengals to win, and but I am gonna pick the Browns to cover that 7 points. If it was 6.5, I'd pick the Bengals, or 6 points. Anything less than that, I'd pick the Bengals to cover. But I do think the Browns will keep it close because they do have it's not like they can play 22 different players on offense and defense. They're going to have to play some starters. And because of that, I do think they keep the game somewhat close. But I think the Bengals win the game in the end. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Detroit Lions. And Minnesota started off really poorly, and then they hit a stretch in the middle of the season. They got a bump from Josh Dobbs. Then Josh Dobbs came crashing back down to earth. And now the Vikings, they do have a chance to still make the playoffs, but a lot of things have to go their way. They can't make it with a loss. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one because I think that the Lions are a better team. The Lions also don't have a ton to play for. They're locked into the 3 seed after their very disappointing loss to the Cowboys last week. And I detailed that a lot already. Now, that being said, so the Vikings have more to play for than the Lions do, but I don't think the Vikings are going to get this one. They've just been snake bit all year. I think Dan Campbell was a little bit embarrassed. You could kind of tell that by some of his press conferences later in the week, talking about that 2-point conversion play and trying to deceive the Cowboys, and looking at backfired on him. But because of that, I think the Lions are prime here. I think this is a tune-up game for them. They're not going to. A lot of the other teams are resting players. I don't think the Lions are going to do that. I think they want to get back in the saddle, get that bad taste of that loss to the Cowboys out of their mouth, and head into the playoffs on a high note and see if they can make a run to the NFC Championship game or even more to the Super Bowl. And I'm going to pick them to cover the 3.5 points. I think they win by a touchdown at least. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee has already pretty much given up on the season. Will Levis is not going to play. Ryan Tannehill is going to get the start. You guys know how I feel about Ryan Tannehill. He's not a good quarterback. And Trevor Lawrence is going to have to – he's got to silence some doubters, honestly. And now they're going on the road. Now, a win for Jacksonville gets them the division title. A loss, they can still get in with a loss, but other things have to happen to do that. Now, they can also be eliminated with a loss, too. It just depends on how the other games go. And we'll talk about some of those tiebreakers here as we go forward. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to matter too much. Jacksonville has not played as well as what a lot of people thought they would. They were 9-8 last year, but really had a winning streak towards the end of the season. They were a very hot team towards the early part to mid part of the season, and they've really trailed off lately. I think they've lost 4 or 5 down the stretch here. I do think they get the win here over Tennessee. Tennessee is just they're just not. Tennessee's already checked out. They're mentally checked out. And I'm gonna go ahead and pick them to win by more than 4 points. I'm gonna pick them to, probably like a 27-21 type of game. Jets and Patriots. I literally don't care about this game. I'm gonna pick the Patriots to win and cover the 2 points. Next, Falcons and Saints. This game also has a lot of playoff implications. The Falcons actually own the tiebreaker over both the Buccaneers and the Saints. But they can only win the division. They cannot win the wild card. They're 7-9 right now. Both of these teams, look at their numbers there. They're 5-11 and 5-10-1 against the spread. These teams have underperformed all season long. There's a reason why the NFC South is such a terrible division. I don't give the Falcons any. Well, I'm going to say give them any shot. I do give them a shot. This is a rivalry game. These two teams don't like each other. I am going to go with the home team here, though. I'm going to go with Derek Carr to hit the upper end of his roller coaster ride that he usually does, and get the Saints to get the win, have them cover the 3 points, and that will punch their ticket to the postseason. Tampa Bay taking on the. Actually, I don't know if that will punch their ticket or not. We'll have to see, because the next game, again, not spending much time on the Carolina Panthers game. Tampa Bay is going to win, and they're going to win by more than 4.5, and a win there by Tampa Bay will secure the NFC South. They just need to win, and they get the 4 seed. Bears and Packers. So the Packers, it's very simple. Win and they're in. I think they can lose and still get in, but we'll have to look at the scenarios. The Bears really turned it on here late. Justin Fields has played very well against maybe some inferior competition. But hey, you just play the teams that are on your schedule. Yeah, to get it. Woo. Sometimes Coke is just a little too sweet. I prefer Pepsi. Actually, I prefer what's on sale. Anyway, back to this. So, the Packers, Jordan Love eclipsed 30 touchdowns on the season in the last game that they played against against the Vikings, and they played very well against the Vikings after 2 straight games where they just looked like absolute dog crap. I think the Bears are going to give the Packers a lot more, I think, than the Packers are wanting. I honestly think the wrong team is favored here. I hate to do this to the guy I love watching, Tom Grassi, but I'm picking the Bears to win this game, and I think they're going to win outright as an underdog, and they're going to ruin the Packers' season just like the Lions ruined it last year. And I think the Packers. We'll have to see when we'll put these picks in. The Packers might still make the playoffs. We'll just have to see. Denver taking on the Raiders. Denver is in shambles. Raiders are still fighting. They're not fighting for a playoff spot, but the Raiders are at least fighting for some pride. I am going to pick the Raiders to get this win here, and I think that they're going to really be trying to get their coach, their interim coach, a permanent head coaching position here. Eagles taking on the Giants. Look, the Giants don't have much to play for. The Eagles have a lot to play for if the Cowboys lose, but the Cowboys don't play until they play at the same time as the Eagles do. So if the Cowboys win, the Eagles are going to be the 5 seed. If the Eagles lose, they're definitely going to be the 5 seed. The Giants are a team that, if you look at this, they're against the spread numbers are almost identical, but their records are flip-flopped. That tells you right there that Philadelphia has massively underperformed against the number this year, and their defense is one of the worst defenses in the league. And it goes to show you that if you can block their front 4, you can score on them. The Chiefs exploited this in the Super Bowl last year, where they held the Eagles to no sacks in the game. Their defense is largely the same, and Now, last year it goes from the best defense in the league to now this year it's the 29th ranked defense or 30th ranked defense in the league. How does that happen? Well, the difference is they have 35 fewer sacks this year. And when you have, and then that's the bottom line. You can throw in their secondary. I'm picking the Giants as an underdog to win this game over the Eagles. The Eagles are stumbling. I think they are completely shell-shocked. And I think they not only lose this game, but I'm going to pick them to lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the first round of the playoff. No, wait, they play the they'll play the winner of the NFC South. So Seahawks taking on the Cardinals. Cardinals have been a plucky bunch this year, obviously getting a win last week over the Eagles. And some people say, well, why would you pick the Giants to beat the Eagles? I mean, they're having a bad season. Well, the Cardinals are having just as bad of a season, and they beat the Eagles last week on the road. That's why I'm picking the Giants to win a game at home. I think the Giants, they can build off of this. And then I do think Arizona, though, they're still a flawed team. Kyler Murray, though, does give them an element of basically he's... What is that? People yelling and screaming outside. Kyler Murray gives them an element that they didn't have before with their... I don't even know who their quarterback situation was before he came back. I know they had Josh Dobbs for a while, but then they traded him or released him or something to the Vikings. So I am going to go with the Seahawks to get this win here. I'm going to pick them to cover the 3 points as well. Seattle's fighting for their playoff life, and we'll see if this puts them in the playoffs once we put it in the machine. Chiefs and the Chargers. This is an irrelevant game for both teams. The Chargers checked out 2 weeks ago when they fired Brandon Staley. The Chiefs are not going to play most of their players, or say most of their top-line starters. Mahomes, Rice are both not going to play. Pacheco is also going to not play. I think Kelsey is going to play just to maybe try to get his 16 yards to get to 1,000 yards on the season, which would give him 8 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons. No other tight end has more than 3. So he is like lapping the field when it comes to this, to that award or to that notoriety. Chargers are 3.5-point favorites because of the players the Chiefs aren't going to be playing. Maybe this is the homer in me or whatever. Maybe it's because I went to Mizzou, but guys, I'm going with the Chiefs, and I'm going with Blaine Gabbert to beat the Chargers here. This is very similar to when Chase Daniel beat the Chargers on the last week of the season, when kind of also an irrelevant game. So another Mizzou quarterback, and they were back-to-back quarterbacks. They went straight from Daniel to Gabbert. So 3. I'm going to go ahead and pick. Chiefs to win outright as the underdog here. It doesn't matter if the Chiefs win or if the Chiefs lose. They are the number 3 seed in the AFC. Now, moving on to the Rams and 49ers. 49ers 4-point favorites. This number would be probably closer to 7 to 7.5. Again, the 49ers are also going to not play some of their players as well. They have the number 1 seed locked up. Now, the Niners have not performed as well against the spread as some other teams have. But they're still 12-4. They've had some bad games this year. The Rams, however, with Matt Stafford, they've really rocketed up. They started off real poor, and they've really played well lately. I'm going with the Rams to get this win on the road. I'm picking a ton of upsets this week, but in the final week of the season, especially with guys who are resting key players like McCaffrey, I don't think McCaffrey's going to play. I think the Rams are in a prime position to get the win here and secure that 6th seed in the playoffs. Cowboys and Commanders, the last afternoon game of the Sunday slate. This is a game I do think the Cowboys are going to get this win here. I'm going to pick the Commanders, though, to cover the 13 points. That's a big number. And the Cowboys have, for the games they've won this year on the road, I don't think they've won any game by more than 10 points, if I'm being 100% honest with you here. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Cowboys to win, but I'm going to get the Commanders to cover the 13 points. I still think it's probably a 10-point win. I think it's 31-21. I think Eric Bieniemy is going to try to pull out all the stops here to try to show a really competent offensive game plan for the Commanders, trying to bolster his opportunity to be either the head coach next year for the Commanders or possibly take another job. There's been rumors that he's been tied to the Atlanta job too. I think Atlanta would be a fantastic landing spot for Eric Bieniemy. And then finally, we have the Bills taking on the Dolphins. So the Dolphins, they are beat up on defense. And everyone just assumes the Bills are going to roll in this game because they've won 4 or 5 in a row, whatever it's been. But if you really go back and look, only one of those games the Bills really played well, and that was the game against the Cowboys. All the other, and that was really not even Josh Allen. That was their running back just going absolutely crazy. Josh Allen has not played well down the stretch here in these last 4 games. And last week was absolutely terrible. I still don't know how they pulled that win out against the Patriots. Now Miami, they are playing at home. They have their full complement of offensive players. They've already locked up a playoff seed, but it depends on what happens. If they win this game, actually the winner of this game is the 2 seed in the AFC. And then if Miami loses, they fall to the 6th seed. If the Bills lose, they could still make it. Depends on what else happens. If the Bills win, obviously they're the 2 seed. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Dolphins here. It's not because I hate the Bills or anything. Well, I mean, it's a little bit of why I'm picking it. But I think the Dolphins at home, I think that they are playing just a little better. Even though they got blown out last week, I think overall they're playing better football than the Bills are. Even though the Bills are winning, it sounds weird to say that, but I mean, just when you look at the eye test, the Bills are struggling against everybody except the Cowboys for some odd reason. And I think Miami knows that their only path to the Super Bowl is to win this game and to get as many home games as possible. Try to get that defense rested up as much as they can. They're going to have to play in the first round of the playoffs regardless. It's probably better to play in the first round against They may be playing Buffalo again. It depends on how these other tiebreakers go. I'm not exactly sure. We'll throw all these into the machine and see what happens. Okay, so those are my picks there. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this over here. Let's go ahead and go to the playoff machine. And I'm going to move my face up here so it's easier to see this. Okay. All right. So I have my picks over here on the other screen. So let's go ahead and put them in. All right. So Pittsburgh and the Ravens. Okay, we picked Pittsburgh to win this game. Colts and Texans. We picked the Colts. Browns and Bengals. We picked the Bengals. Jags and Titans. We picked the Jags. Picked the Patriots. I picked the Saints. I picked the Buccaneers. I picked the Bears. I picked the Seahawks. Raiders. Chiefs. Giants. Rams. Cowboys. Dolphins. Okay. Okay, so that's the scenario that Buffalo does not want to see. So, so there you have it, guys. That is what my official picks for this week, how that's going to plays out, and this is what the playoff situation looks like if everything goes my way. Now, is that all going to go my way? No, because the best week I've had was only 2 losses, and if there's only 2 losses this week by me, this could look very, very different. So, again, I have Baltimore as the 1, Miami the 2, Kansas City the 3, Jacksonville the 4, Cleveland the 5, Indy the 6, and Pittsburgh the 7 seed. And then the other side, San Francisco 1, followed by Dallas, Detroit, Tampa, Philly, LA, and Seattle. Now, how this would play out. Now, if the playoff scenarios work out exactly like this is how I see it going. I'm not trying to be homer here or anything. I see Pittsburgh actually beating Miami with that defense, and I see them winning and going on to in the second round to face the Ravens. I see the Chiefs beating the Colts, and I see the Browns beating the Jaguars. And then that would put the Browns and the Chiefs at Arrowhead in round 2, and the Ravens in Pittsburgh. And I have Baltimore beating Pittsburgh, and then I have the Chiefs beating the Browns. And in the AFC Championship game, I'm going to go ahead. It'll be in Baltimore. Baltimore and Kansas City. I have the Ravens knocking off my Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl. So the Chiefs would get back to the AFC Championship game, but I don't see them winning 3 games in a row to get to the Super Bowl here. Now it's possible that maybe if Pittsburgh upsets them in the second round, like in that situation, and then the AFC Championship game is back in Kansas City, and it's Kansas City and Pittsburgh. I could see the Chiefs coming back to the Super Bowl in that regard. But again, it's who knows what's going to happen. I think the playoffs are going to be wild this year. Now, on the NFC side, with how it plays out here, I would have Dallas beating Seattle. They're in the first round. I'm actually going to go with L.A., Matt Stafford, to upset Detroit in that first round game. And I'm going to have Tampa Bay beating Philadelphia in the first round there. So that would put San Francisco taking on the Rams. Now, a full complement of players, I think San Francisco would best them. So I'd have San Francisco beating beating the Rams there. And then I would have the Tampa Bay taking on Dallas. In Dallas, obviously Dallas is going to get the win there. So the one versus 2, and I'm going to have Dallas get revenge on Brock Purdy and the 49ers in the NFC Championship game and go to the Super Bowl. So my Super Bowl is Baltimore versus Dallas, which is a little slightly different than what I picked preseason, which I picked Kansas City and Dallas to make the Super Bowl. And then Baltimore taking on the Cowboys in the Super Bowl. Again, this is my picks right now. Obviously, this will change next week when we do the official playoff picks. But if it's Baltimore and Dallas, I'm gonna go with the Cowboys to get the win and to beat Baltimore and to hoist the Lombardi for the first time since 1995. Or 1994, whenever that was. 94, 95. Mid-90s was the last time that they won the Super Bowl. Okay, that's it, guys. That's my picks for the week. That's how I think the playoffs are going to look. And I guess I just gave a very brief rundown of how the playoffs are going to go. But again, next week, once the playoff picks are set after this weekend, next week I'll be doing my picks segment. For the entire playoffs, we'll be doing Madden simulations as well, probably on next Friday night. So we will be doing those live. So if you'd like to watch Madden simulations, I'll be talking about the games. We'll be talking about football while we're doing it. My son will probably join me while we do that. He likes to jump in there and talk as well. If you like that, Friday night, a week from today, so the 12th, we'll be doing that. So anyway, thanks so much for watching this, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel for more content. I've got more NFL content coming your way all playoffs long. It's going to be an exciting month of NFL playoff action leading up to Super Bowl 58. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. See you guys.